In this podcast, we are going to cover how do you know when you're injured? Is it sensible to train around something? Would it not be better to completely rest? Your own workouts that you had to do, so how we had to tailor ourselves when we were injured. Tips and tricks around programming and the opportunity to bring up weaker areas.
It's time to stretch and stretch.
Welcome to You Can Fix You, giving you mobility tips to build movement freedom and train with confidence.
Episode 13. Sorry, I didn't have minutes up.
Good start. Good start.
This is going really well.
This is the podcast that we're supposed to be showing Jenny that we've got it figured out. We know what we're doing.
But we do. Now that we're rolling, she's going to be blown away.
Yeah, the hour and a half setup time really impressed me.
And whose fault is that? Whose room are we in? Whose new lenses are we using?
These are new lenses.
Yeah,
They are.
Yeah, that's why.
I hope you appreciate it.
Yes.
Why you can see the entire room.
Yeah.
And not just
One
a close-up of
dumbbell.
Tom's face. Yeah. Exciting.
Anyway, so episode 13, working around injuries. Tom, before we start, are we going to talk about the elephant in the room?
You just called Jenny an elephant?
I don't know what to think about this.
Yes, we have our first time having Jenny on the podcast.
Which
So-
is hilarious because it's an episode ahead of when she might also be in it. She might be in 12.
Right enough, actually, yeah. We have to refilm
yeah.
one, so Jenny will be taking part in that. But yes, welcome, Jenny.
Yay.
Thank you.
So the
Thank you.
goal was to figure out how to make podcasts first before annoying Jenny, and now we've annoyed Jenny
Yes.
and got Jenny on it.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
It's seamless.
I can tell. If this is seamless, I hate to see what it was before.
Anywho, working around injuries. In this podcast, we are going to cover how do you know when you're injured?
I'm just going to go into the meeting, so we're going to have to start over.
I don't think so. I think leave it. Number 2, is it sensible to train around something? Would it not be better to completely rest? Number 3, your own workouts that you had to do, so how we had to tailor ourselves when we were injured. Tips and tricks around programming and the opportunity to bring up weaker areas. So number 1, how do you know you're injured? Jenny, have you ever been injured?
Never. No. I've been injured
The
a
least
lot.
injury-prone person ever. Oh, no.
Wait, no, that's not. That's someone else. I've been injured a lot. I mean, obviously, pain is the biggest marker, but I think you often will have whoopsies and niggles and things that you're like, oh, I clearly did something wrong. Oh dear, and then you sort of get on with it, and then you're fine after a couple of days. So I guess an injury would be more like, okay, I've hurt myself. I don't know maybe why. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It's maybe built up over time. Maybe it's sudden. But the main thing is it's not going away. No, you're trying to do stuff. You're maybe doing some movement. You're doing some rotations, whatever, but it's still there.
Yeah, it's pervasive no matter what you do.
Persistent,
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like a whoopsie is like a, oh dear, oh dear, oh no, it's okay, and that'll be fine. Injury to me is a, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, next day, oh dear,
yeah.
and that's, I need to rest
Totally.
this is bad. So I think for me, my knee was the first ever big one. I had an oh dear, where it was in a Muay Thai class, and we were doing a drill, you had to hold the legs, and I landed, and my knee twisted inwards, and I just felt this almighty crunch, and I went, oh dear, and I tried to set my foot down, couldn't put my weight on it, I had to hobble off the mat. That was my second, oh dear, and then sat down for a few minutes, tried to stand, it was even worse, oh dear, it felt like someone turning a screwdriver, it was like, oh dear, and then
dear.
I was trying to massage the muscle down, it was like, oh dear, and then the next day I woke up and my knee was twice the size, and was like,
Yeah.
oh dear. So that was my first kind of like,
So is it 4 ODs that
at
make an
least
injury?
4, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
make
4
it-
strikes in your eyes.
Yeah. We'll make a sliding scale for people to use.
I tend to think of it kind of as in where is it? So like it's very rarely the middle of your muscle,
True.
the muscle belly. If it is, I mean,
a
that's
tear,
a really big
yeah.
oh dear. But most of the time, an injury is going to happen at the joint. So it's right up tight into the joint, whether it's your hip or your elbow or whatever. And that's when you start to know, oh, this is maybe more than just DOMS or just like you've got a big bruise or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I think joint injuries as well, like even in terms of recovery, blood flow, all these things that go on inside your body, muscles are less prone to injury. There's so many muscle fibers that if a couple of them get damaged, your body's like, ow, but then it just gets on with it.
Yeah.
Whereas if a joint gets hurt, I mean, there's a lot going on, but it's lots of different stuff. The blood flow is restricted, all this kind of things. It's like, it's going to take me a while to recover from this, guys. So please stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, is that it's kind of once you kind of recognize, oh, this is an injury, it's then looking at, oh, it's probably not going to be okay next week. When you look at what's going to be the next 3 months or 6 months, or depending on what the injury is, obviously.
Yeah.
It's going to be a longer time.
I would say if you're new to training as well, if you feel a crunch or a pop or a click or whatever like that, they're just hospital straight away. So now, like with the experience that we all have now, if we do something like that, we're kind of like, oh, I'll probably leave it for a few days and see how it goes, and then maybe go to a physiotherapist. But if you're brand new to training, just go and get an x-ray, go and get it seen to. Even if it doesn't feel like the doctors are very helpful, if you aren't experienced in training, it's good just to go get seen to straight away as soon as you feel something funky, if you don't know how to manage stuff. But over time, you will learn to better manage things, and you'll know if it's a whoopsie or a, oh dear.
Oh yeah, it's the same as anything. You learn from experience. And like yesterday I was doing some squats, and usually second or third set, for some reason, one of my hips just goes, and I'm like, sweet, now we're actually in a good place.
That's like Jenny's poppy hamstring.
Yeah. I fold forwards and it needs to pop before I can continue folding forwards.
Whereas if I was inexperienced, I'd go, oh, I felt something moving my hip there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to squat ever again. You know, so it's trying to get around the fear initially and kind of look at it more analytically. Okay, what's actually going on here? What am I feeling? What can I do? What can't I do? And how am I going to move forward?
And potentially what caused it. So, like...
Was it a trauma?
Yeah.
Or was it?
Was it just a little readjustment? But someone I know recently started running, and they had the beginner enthusiasm of, I'm going to run.
Every day.
Great. Yeah, no, they were doing it fairly sensibly, but still there was that enthusiasm that when you get
Enthusiasm
into
about running?
Look. So, but then they hurt their knees.
Oh no.
And luckily she is sensible enough to be like, right, well, I just overdid it.
Sure.
I'm going to pull it back and I'm going to keep running because this is what she wants to do. But so many people would have been like, oh, that's it. I'm not a runner. I've hurt my knees. I've injured myself. Exactly. Yeah. This is clearly not for me. So that was an injury that, yes, she needs to take seriously, but she also needs to analyze, like, okay, this was my fault.
Yeah.
I haven't run in 5 years and I've gone out and done a 5K. You know, it's obviously was going to have an impact. So an injury isn't always a mystery.
yeah, for sure.
And sometimes you're the idiot.
That's what happens to me at Christmas with cheese.
Cheese
like,
injury?
why am I 5 kilos heavier than I was in November? The cheese.
It's a mystery.
A beautiful, tasty mystery.
So on that,
Well, hang on, what would have been your, Jenny, that you went, or what was an oh dear for you, like that you knew straight away? I can think of one of yours actually.
I can think of many.
I know, but one specifically that I can remember.
I'm curious, which one are you thinking about?
The Yuval Avalon handstand
Oh,
one.
That's the one I was thinking about. Yeah,
your
so
shoulder.
I was in a handstand at a workshop. So there was an incredible hand balancer, Yuval on hands, as he's on Instagram, and we were there, and I'd already started handstands a little bit. So I was like, I can do this. I'm amazing. I wasn't that amazing, but he was also very old school in his teaching and his training. That's the way he was taught. It's sort of a push harder, you know, I want to say Russian style of training, if you know what I mean. So it's that very intense, if you die, kind of. However, he's not Russian also. But anyway, we were doing hollow backs on a wall, and I was trying to push my chest forwards through my shoulders.
Gotcha.
So it was going really, really deep into flexion. You were supported on the wall, so you weren't balancing, so you could go further than you had the strength to. And yeah, as I was upside down, my shoulder decided to pop out of the socket.
Nope.
And I fell on my head on the floor. And trying not to cry, I'm pretty sure I cried in front of Yuval and in the middle of the workshop. And I was like, I'm going to have to stop.
It was, yeah, Jenny was being very brave. You didn't cry. You know, it's, when Jenny cries, it's just like tears. You can just see the tears, but she still looks fine. But yeah, you could see in your face, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, I think we got to about 12 oh dears. And like, you know, she was just, no, I'm fine. But you could see the eyes, oh dear, the whole time.
I was not fine.
It was pretty bad. But that's the problem with you. You look so strong. You wouldn't think to say, you know, you think, you know, push as hard as you can. Look at her, there's muscles on her. Look, go for it, go. But then hypermobility kicked in.
Yeah.
And boop.
Yeah. Suddenly I wasn't strong anymore. So yeah, that was quite a bad one. It was one of my first major, because it popped back in. It wasn't a complete dislocation. It was a sublux. But it was probably one of my first major ones. I think it happened like minorly before then. So it was scary as well.
Was that before you guys started this or after?
Oh, I don't know. It was many years ago.
Many years ago.
It was.
Probably
I
just at
think
the blog
we'd started,
stage.
Yeah, we'd started articles and
Yes.
blogs. Well, I don't know if we had SMM back then.
No, I don't think
Crazy. I have to check the date.
so. What would you, JP? What was your oh dear?
One of the more recent ones, I was doing a workout that had ring dips in it, and I hadn't done ring dips in quite a while, and got midway through one of the reps and just felt this like,
Oh, no. That's not a sound you want to hear.
and I can't. The moment is like stuck in my head, but I can't tell if the sensation was my brain sort of preemptively going, if you go any more, this is going to happen, or if it did happen, because my pec is fine. It's attached. There's nothing wrong, but I could not do a push-up. I couldn't even do like an incline push-up for about 2 months.
Wow.
And it took, I can still even feel it now when I do like bench or push-ups or whatever. It just feels weaker. But yeah, that was a moment of, you stupid. What do you do that for?
No. But I guess, assuming you had no idea it was coming. Like,
Oh, no.
you didn't have a build-up of a niggly pec or anything. It was
There was
just,
no sore shoulder, nothing,
Yeah.
just like, oh.
Yeah, because they seem like the most unfair.
Yeah.
Like, if it's a build-up of, oh yeah, no, I should have stopped. You're kind of like, oh, silly me.
Those 12 warning signs that I ignored probably should have, yeah.
But when it's just out of the blue and you're like, but I did nothing wrong. You're like, what the heck?
I was exercising. I'm supposed to be strong.
Yeah.
That reaction you had, Tom, I mean, it's not, any time you look at a trauma event or like a moment of a whoopsie, I get so squeamish. I don't get squeamish about many things, but an injury like that, where your muscle detaches or like your shoulder pops out, whatever, I just, I don't like it.
That's the same as me in thinking about your heartbeat. I hate thinking about my
And
heartbeat.
the chambers go from
Jenny.
from.
It just makes me feel so weird. I don't want to know.
Jenny, does it make you feel weird in here?
Suddenly I'm aware of my heart and I don't want to be.
Oh my goodness. We've learned something new today.
So,
Yes.
you were able to restore your shoulder back to being awesome.
Thank you.
You were able to restore your pec back to being awesome.
For sure.
My one with my knee, it had to get surgery. I tore my meniscus, so
Yep.
it had to
Yeah.
get taken out. It was just constantly swollen.
Typical Tom.
I know, I had to
Likes to
go.
go.
Attention,
Yeah.
big drama.
Yeah, so I had to get a bit of meniscus taken out, and now weirdly for me, so you say you notice that you feel your pec still, and you know, you may be aware after an injury like something you still just got this residual fear with. I'm not really scared of my knee, but every time I do a split squat now, it just goes every rep. Just clicks this wee bit,
Yeah.
and it's never hurt or anything like that. There, it was
Yeah,
totally
it's just-
fine. But yeah, sometimes you can be left with little things like that, or like you say about warming up your squats, your hip needs to pop or something is
Yeah.
funky like that, and it's totally normal. Your body just it will find a way.
So with these things, if in the moment, obviously horrendous, right? Okay, let's have our moment.
the world has ended.
Exactly. We've all got to have our melodramatic sort of questioning of life.
Woe is me.
But
yeah.
at that point, do you decide to take a break from training? Is it worth continuing to train but adapting it? Or what's our kind of thought process with this?
Immobilized, if it needs immobilized, then you would probably want to take a wee while off until you're able to move things properly. Like if we're talking a few weeks maybe. But if it's something that you've been dealing with before, so like the likes of Jenny, subluxing the shoulder, the next time that kind of happened to you, you were able to start, doing a bit of rehab almost immediately on it, and just
quick,
squats ahoy. You're able to adjust your training straight away. So, but the big thing would be that you don't want to put your body into a full state of rest. You do want blood flow. You want things helping that way. So, yeah, what would you kind of think, JP?
I kind of have 3 little stories I made a note of for this one.
Oh, nice.
So
wow.
one is from way back when I was rowing full time. Sort of, one of the guys on our team had a little accident before the World Championships.
Oh dear! Did he have to change clothes?
Maybe broke an arm.
Okay, sorry.
That's
stop
the worst
joking
kind of
about
accident.
that.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Person I never met.
Yeah.
Me and Tom just giggling at poo jokes, and he's actually okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
continue.
3 weeks before, the year end, the big goal, arm's broken. What's he going to do? He could take some time off, and nothing he is going to do is going to get him back for the championships. But he could take some time off, enjoy life, do that sort of stuff, and come back ready for next season. He trained on, and he had his arm in a sling, and he did bike. He did squats weighted below the waist. He did every part of training that he could. He even did all the single arm exercises on the other side, because all the science said there is a carryover. Even if he works one arm, it's like 60% of the strength will carry over, even if you don't use the other arm.
Isn't that crazy?
Which is nuts.
Yeah. I guess your body wants symmetry.
It does,
If you want to experience that in real time, try 2 different dumbbell weights. A heavy dumbbell on one side and a lighter dumbbell on the other side. And your brain, for whatever reason, tries to make them feel the same. So you actually curl them.
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
so
That's
strange when you do that.
Nice. Oh, I'll have to try that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I really respected his kind of grit and determination. That is, I'm just going to keep going because, I have one arm that doesn't work, but that means I have another arm that does, and I have 2 legs and a heart.
Bum.
And the because he's measuring performance in like 1 or 2%, taking a couple of months off would have been so detrimental to that it's just better to keep going.
Yeah. It aligned with his goals. Like,
Yes.
there's definitely a toxic productivity sort of dark side to that. Like, if you're miserable and in pain, there is value to taking time off if you need it. You may, the mental benefits of keeping training is great, but there are some times where you do need time off. But his goals were high performance.
Yeah.
So it aligned with his goals to keep training whatever he could, no matter what that was, because there's always a benefit to being active.
Yeah.
We'll
Especially
circle back
for him.
around to that at the end, but it's just that thing of like he would have had weaknesses to work on, and that was his time to get them, and
Totally.
it would have
Yeah.
paid off
Yeah.
whenever he got back to training again. So it's always worth doing, as boring as it is at the time.
Yeah.
The other 2 parts of that as well. So when I was rowing, every session we did was coached. So there was a coach there guiding you through whatever needed to happen. So whenever I had my gym, I was a coach. I was there to help people, regardless if they'd had a poor night's sleep, if they tripped on their way into the gym and hurt them, and no matter, they come in and we'll help them get the most out of the hour that they're there for. That was a CrossFit gym, which is limited in equipment and resources, but high in coaching and adaptability.
Yeah.
Whereas a traditional sort of Globo gym, where there's a load of machines and stuff, there's low on coaching, but there's a wide variety of machines that are designed for rehab. Like all those machines that have you have to use an exact range position. You can't, wobble up and down. They were made to help Army veterans recover from having horrendous injuries out on the battlefield, because it's very controlled. They don't need a lot of supervision. They didn't have at that time.
The stability requirements are taken away.
Yeah, which is not ideal long term, but in the short term, it's
Yeah.
actually hugely
I used
beneficial.
it for my knee recovery,
Yeah.
which I'll talk about.
Oh, nice. In the future.
Oh my god, that's also
In the
past.
past. Sorry, that's
That was a callback to.
off screen.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So in short, complete rest for injuries. Wouldn't
Yeah.
vote on it.
I'm not a huge-
Sometimes necessary, but I think rarely.
Yeah. And actually, recovering the specific spot, yeah, maybe rest is exactly what it needs.
Oh,
But
yeah, completely rest the injured site.
Yes.
Yeah, I could be on board with. But moving your body is such a great way to even stave off the
Irritations.
the frustration of
Emotional angst.
exactly that existential dread.
Which leads us into nicely of working around things. So if you do have an injury, if you've busted shoulder or busted knee, what do you do? What
I
do
think
you
there's
do?
two ways you can work around an injury. One is completely rest that area and just work on a different area of the body. My shoulder, rest it, use my legs. However, there's also working around the injury is also using that joint, depending on the stage of recovery you're at,
Yep.
but in different ways. So like my knee, which I keep referring to and not telling anyone about.
You have a knee?
I have a knee.
Wow.
It's very close
I
to
have
my heart.
two. Oh no.
So I have an osteochondroma on my tibia.
One more time.
Osteochondroma,
Wow.
yeah, on my tibia on my left leg, and it affects me through inflammation. If, like, for some reason my hamstring and adductors get too excited, it rubs over this osteochondroma, and I have really, really bad inflammation.
Inflation. Oh no, my stocks.
My money is worthless. Damn knee.
For a second, I thought you said socks. I'm like, why are her socks shrinking or growing?
Oh,
What have they got
socks,
to do?
she can't pull her socks up because of this
My
big knee.
knee's too big.
For reference,
inflation.
for everyone listening, Jenny's left knee is 20 times bigger than the right one.
That is not true.
That's why the desk is here to cover it.
No, anyway, so
I just imagine you crossed your legs, the tables go woof.
anyway, so it is very much one of those, it's inflammation. It's not anything else. You can't really do much other than rest. It's basically tendinitis. However, tendinitis is one of those stupid injuries that sometimes rest helps, sometimes rest doesn't.
Tendonitis is
The worst.
so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what I did to work around the injury was at first I avoided moving it. But yeah, tendinitis, sometimes rest makes it worse because you just get weaker, you get stiffer, the inflammation stays, it doesn't get moved around. So instead, my workaround was I changed up the leg training I was doing to more facilitate healthy joint movement. So I would do a lot of tempo work, really, really slow and controlled.
Great for tendonitis sometimes.
Great for what?
Tendinitis.
Oh, sometimes, yeah, sometimes. And I used a leg press machine. And I would never normally do that because I was like, why would I not just squat?
Yeah.
But doing single leg press allowed me to make sure my knee was moving through a really nice movement pattern. I get into really deep flexion and I had full control over the weight and full control of the range of motion. When you've got dumbbells and barbells flying around, they're awesome for stability. But at that time, I
Yeah.
needed safety. My knee needed straight lines.
Totally,
And
yeah.
that was all it needed. So that's a form of working around the injury. It's not
Okay.
necessarily just doing other body parts. It's also, well, what can I do with this injury? What should I do? What's actually going to help? Because as well, if I then the next day discovered it was worse, I wouldn't have done it again. You
Yeah,
have to
For sure.
play it by
Living in
ear.
oh dear.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, sometimes working it is the best way to work around it.
Yeah.
What way do you work it, JP?
I wish I could wolf whistle.
So yeah, I tend to look at the overall session as like so if I didn't have this injury, what would I be doing? And rather than being precious about the movements, say for example it's overhead squats, but I've hurt my shoulder, I'm not going to do overhead squats. So an overhead squat, you're looking to stabilize overhead and you're looking to go below parallel. So what other ways can I go below parallel? Because I'm not going to stabilize overhead. Or if I do, I maybe do like a one-sided farmer's carry, one arm up, one arm down, that sort of thing. And then if I'm struggling to find a way to load going below parallel in a squat, so like I can't put something on my back, could I do like a belted one? If I don't have the equipment for that, could I do a step up onto a box? You're still getting below parallel. And so you're not precious about the movements, but you're looking at the movement patterns
Yeah.
and trying to replicate
The
those.
principles, not the exercises. Yeah. Rather than being like, oh, I can't do blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, how else could I hit that same movement pattern
Yes,
in an adapted way? Yeah.
that's how I try and simplify it in my head.
What about you, Tom?
My back was the best one for me, kind of trying to figure out how to work around things. So there was two things on that. So I realized that any kind of flexion with my lumbar spine was just too much because the disc was just so sensitive to anything like that.
Yep.
But I was able to lunge okay, because when you lunge, you don't go below parallel, essentially.
You do love a good
There's-
lunge,
I do
Tom.
love a good lunge.
You do now.
There's no, I do now, I did at the time. But there's no kind of movement needed as much from the pelvis or anything. So I was able to, even though I couldn't tuck my chin or round my back at all without searing pain, like really, really bad, I could still have my own body weight on a barbell and do front rack lunges. So I could still work around that way.
There you go.
But the other thing for me was then upper body stuff was okay. After a point, there was a weird stage where I went through when I was hanging. When I was hanging, it was okay. But as soon as I put my feet back down on the floor and my weight came back down again, it was bad.
Yeah,
It nearly it buckled my legs. Like it was so bad. But after I got through that stage and was able to hang and let go again, okay. Upper body all day. So that's why I'm shaped like a golf tee, essentially. So I spent the best part of a year arms every day. I did all the muscle up stuff, all the handstand stuff, all of that. So that was the chunk of my training for that year while I was recuperating from my back injury. I still trained, but it was just upper body all the time, and combined that with lunges, but I couldn't deadlift heavy, I couldn't squat heavy at that point. So I just layered up on that stuff, and I got my muscle ups pretty good at one point. And really, really enjoyed the upper body weight.
Started
for you-
wearing baggy trousers as well.
Started wearing really baggy trousers.
Really bad. Yeah, nice. Well, so it's interesting because for you, it's almost shifting your perspective and focus and shifting your focus away to something else because that was so debilitating.
Because all my goals up to that point was all on the barbell. What
Yes.
could I get on the barbell? That was all I wanted to do. But after that, I was like, you know what? This bodyweight stuff's quite interesting, actually. Save my sanity.
Well, that's how I got into handstands. Because I had a really bad back injury as well, totally different to Tom's. And I couldn't do CrossFit. I loved CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting. They were the two things I did. And I kind of wanted to get into handstands. You know, we do CrossFit handstands, just throwing yourself upside down.
How dare you?
And waggling around in the air.
How very dare you?
Falling with style.
No.
Anyway, so then I literally couldn't do it. My back was so painful, I couldn't brace, but I could go upside down. I don't know. The pressure was just different. I could go upside down.
Your legs are so light.
Apart from one of her legs.
Most people's legs are too heavy. Your shoulders are too heavy, so it's actually easier to move your hands.
Yeah,
If
Tom has the same problem.
If
yeah.
Tom has a golf tee just holding a golf ball there and the ball... Jenny's on her hands with her legs holding it like, I'm fine.
That's great. But yeah, no. Shifting your goals due to injury is not the worst thing anyway.
Totally, yeah.
I learned a whole new skill.
That period, like you're like you went on that level of being so much better than most other people at handstands. Like there's, a lot of people can just kind of do handstands, but very few are really good at them. So that's when you got to that stage. If that's, you blew me out of the water. Like we were kind of like at the same level at that point, and then you just went off, and I was like, well, I'm never catching that. I need to find other things to do quick. So yeah, but I enjoy my training so much more now. I realize that's what made me realize there was so much more than just the barbell.
There's a lot of breadth to training that you can dive into. I think in the past I've gone both ways with that. Sometimes I'm laser focused on a goal, so I'll just stick to the path, adapt around, wiggle and do all that kind of stuff. And other times I just needed a clean break because it was messing with my mindset too much.
Yeah.
I thought, right, let's just focus on something else. But the tricky part about that is understanding if it's something new, you're starting from scratch.
Yes,
and
you're
you
bad
can't,
at it.
You can't jump in where you left off at the other thing that you've been working at. Because if you do, you're going to pick up another whoopsie, and then you're really screwed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you had a knee injury and then you go ahead and injure your shoulder.
I'm running out of bits. Okay.
It's core day.
Again.
You never want to get to the stage where you've only got the foot exercises. That's like, great. Foot exercises.
Yoke neck. Just yes.
So tips and tricks then. So for actionable things, if I've just picked up a whoopsie, in my lower body, what would be tips and tricks to go for upper body?
Jenny?
Oh, well, my first tip wouldn't be of what to do. It would be what to think.
Ooh.
Don't freak out.
But then all people hear is freak out.
But don't stay calm. Yeah. So no, because all of three of us have mentioned today, when I did this, I felt this.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest part of any injury. Because you've got the whole rest of your body.
Mm-hmm.
Objectively speaking, injuring one joint or one muscle is fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get better. It will get better. It's our brain that's the problem. Because then we go, I'm rubbish. I'm going to never be able to do this again. This is going to be me for life. I'm so weak. I'm so this and blah, 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 blah.
It's exactly what happened in November with my back.
Exactly. And even if it's only a 2-week recovery time, because in the end, your flare up for your back was
it's
2
super
weeks,
short.
which is quite a small flare up, really. But when you're in the middle of it, that's years. That's forever. So, it's the hardest thing to do, but that reassurance, giving yourself reassurance of, okay, this is gonna pass.
Mm-hmm.
This is gonna get better. What can I do to help? Have your drama, as we said, have your woe is me, have your dramatic, I'm never gonna walk again moment. But then you need to pick yourself up and...
I prefer to be Batman.
And just remind yourself that this is temporary. Bodies heal. It's what they do.
Yeah.
What can I do in the meantime?
I like that.
Do you have any more tips, further tips?
Well, kind of very similar is oftentimes if someone is thinking about hiring a coach, they do it when the stars are all aligned. It's like, oh, I don't have stress at work. Great. I don't have this going on. I don't have that going on. I have time to focus on this goal. So I'll go pay a coach and they'll help me reach the goal. The trouble is, as soon as all the rain clouds come back over again, it becomes overwhelming. Actually, one of the best times to get a coach is when, it's middle of the night, you need to see somewhere and they've got a torch. So when you are injured, go find a coach and hire them and say, look, I have this injury. I don't have the experience to deal with this. Can you help me?
Yeah.
That's the perfect time to use a coach. Mm.
You're right, because people would go to a physio, which is great. Definitely do that.
For sure.
But they're just focused on the recovery process, whereas a coach, assuming they're not, go see both probably.
Yeah.
But a coach with enough knowledge and experience will not only be able to help your recovery, but also pad out the rest of your training and give yourself a well-rounded program.
If upper body training to use, I'll just do bicep curls for 6 months, then you need to know more.
And they can also be less... They're not as emotionally attached,
Yeah.
which is really beneficial because they're not the one thinking, I'm never going to walk again. They can go, no, that'll be fine. and they can put in little challenges for you and things that you would not maybe be brave enough to challenge yourself with.
Totally.
And
it's support, isn't it?
Yeah, and exactly, most people are not, they don't have the time to develop a huge knowledge of fitness. And what like you were saying, it's there's more than the barbell. There's so much out there. There's hand balancing. There's any kind of bodyweight stuff. There's rowing. I could talk about rowing. There's so many different avenues, capoeira, that you can get into. But it's just finding somebody that can help you explore that without you having to sink 16 hours of your life trying to figure it out. Sorry, your turn, Tom.
Tips and tricks. No, I like that you covered the mental aspect of it. That's really, really cool. But yeah, it's the first thing is if you're really inexperienced, go and see someone. You got to go see someone. And it's your body you're talking about as well. Don't be afraid to spend a bit of money as well. So if you're just to go to a doctor about, just like a general practitioner doctor about something, they're probably not going to be able to help you very much. They'll probably just be able to give you painkillers. So it's better to go to, if it's a really bad, oh dear, it's an A&E jobby, get an x-ray as fast as you can kind of thing. That's the fastest thing you kind of can do. But then, physiotherapist as soon as you can. And I would pay for some private sessions. It's good to go private because they're able to look at everything for you as well. So don't be afraid even just for peace of mind to go and see someone just for them to say, you need to rest that or not. It was one of the best things about my physio that I had. He knew what I was like. So if I went with something, he knew fine rightly I wouldn't rest, But he would be like, right, okay, here's what you can do. He would always say, here's what you are able to do. Just don't go outside that. But if he ever did say to me, dude, you need to not do anything, I would have actually listened to, because he knew me so well.
And that's a trust thing.
Yeah, trust thing. Yeah. So it is always really good to have a therapist, especially that you have a good relationship with, and they know what you're like, because like I said, they know, especially if you're talking about diet and stuff like that, they're like, how did the weekend go? Yeah, it was fine. Only had a couple of crisps. They know fine rightly you had 6 boxes of Turkish delight and a bag of Jelly Babies too. Yeah. That's fine. But yeah, they're able to say, right, we need to cut your calories a bit more this week then. Yeah. So yeah, having someone, go and see someone straight away, because it's your body. It's worth the money. It's the best thing that you've got that you should look after. So don't be trying to scrimp and save on it, but yes, always be trying to acquire more knowledge so that you are able to look after yourself better. That's the sort of a long-term thing that you're looking to do. So
there's a couple more things on that, just with the doctors, physios and coaches. Just because you've tried one doesn't mean, and it didn't work out, doesn't mean all doctors, physios or coaches are not for you.
Yeah.
There are many with multitude of experiences and backgrounds and interests. A doctor who is not into physical health themselves is probably not somebody that, if you are interested in physical health, is going to be great for you.
No.
Because they're going to have a different outlook on life, different goals. Finding somebody that you trust or that you can build a relationship with that also thinks similarly about their life is hugely beneficial.
Yeah, because you don't want to be told, we'll give up your sport then.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
That doesn't work.
And that's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So.
Episode 12.
Episode 12, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's in the past. In the future. Forget about it.
Yeah, like what's the chances you get the perfect
first time
physio first time?
It's like a date. You got
exactly,
to date
yeah.
your,
I was going to
date
say,
your doctor
yeah.
in a non-creepy way.
So the opportunity is what you want to think about. So bringing it back to the mental side, to bring up your weaker areas. So that for me, the best thing that I noticed after going through that period of the year, that's when I improved my mobility. So that's where I was able to do all the barbell movements better. I was able to squat better at the end of it. I was able to, and because of all the work I'd done upper body wise, anytime workouts came up in CrossFit that were like really upper body grippy kind of stuff, I was able to, even with my awful cardio, get myself through, because my muscle endurance was so good at that point. So I could do big, massive high reps of toes to bar, pull-ups or anything like that easily. And then, people would just pass me in the burpees, but that's okay. So yeah, if it was an advanced workout, it brought me way, way, way up, which was awesome. So it was didn't feel like it as much at the time, but the opportunity was there to bring that area of my overall training up. So that was a really big positive.
Yeah, I think, I know I keep going back to CrossFit as an example, but it's because it's done such a good job of defining things in the fitness space. And so if you look at what weak areas do you have, say you're an endurance athlete, you're not doing a huge pile of strength work or whatever in the gym. You're doing a lot of, say, long distance running or cycling. And you do something that stops you from doing that one thing. Well, there are 10 physical domains that you can be working at that will eventually improve that performance. And I'm not going to get all of these at first go, but you got like cardiovascular endurance, stamina, speed, agility, strength, flexibility, balance, coordination, accuracy, and what's the other one?
Oh, jeez, it's been so long.
I did that in the wrong order, and that's why I've forgotten it.
Yeah.
There's one other one. But
there is another one.
There's so many avenues there, and if you just take one of those and improve it 10%, why wouldn't your performance improve?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, working on your weaknesses is something that we all avoid. And sometimes an injury is a blessing.
I have no weaknesses. If I don't look at them, they don't exist.
Yeah. So having an injury force you to slow down is very much a blessing in disguise, despite how it feels at the time. But taking that opportunity is the hardest part, because it can be easy to wallow and to be upset and to just wish you were doing the thing that you can't. And for some reason, when you can't do the thing, that's the only thing you want to do.
Yeah.
Just at that very moment, I would love to back squat. Oh, my knee.
Yeah. I think as well, in the other weirdly positive way, if you do have an injury of some kind and it is going to heal in, say, 6 to 8 weeks or whatever, that's your warning sign from your body to say, hey, if I don't do this to you now, this is going to be a year jobby.
That's true.
So, take the warning sign. So for, like you mentioned earlier, like same for me, my back, I tore fascia first. I realigned my pelvis. I just had really bad back pain, really bad hip pain for ages. I had at least four massive warning signs before I hurt my back properly. Yeah. So I just didn't listen. So
your body's just like, I'm going to Keep telling you. Slow down.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so close to 150. Oh, yeah.
Do we have a win for the week, Tom?
We do have a win. Shall I read the win? Will I read the win?
Read the win?
I'll read the win.
Yep.
Woohoo.
So the win was from, in the SMM group, the Vicky Fletcher.
The
The
Vicky
Vicky
Fletcher.
Fletcher. She's like a the
Wow.
Tom Morrison now. So from
VIP.
Vicky Fletcher. Not strictly an SMM post, but it is a Tom Morrison post. I have a busted ankle. Slightly slipped tendon gets crushed between the bones of a slightly pronating foot. For a long distance trail runner, that means a dull ache that gets progressively worse after about 10 miles during the event, and at least a day of no weight bearing or ankle movement at all after. Think literally crawling about. I know that's such a funny thing, isn't it? Like, you can go in through some stages of an injury that you're so bad the next day, but you still keep going. And even though you are literally crawling about, I was there as well. It's like I would still go
Yeah.
into the gym the next day and still do the same things that were causing that.
I
It's
know,
crazy,
yeah.
just because you love it so much.
By it gets worse after 10 miles.
Yeah, it would have got worse for me on mile one.
Making it to 10 miles. That's wild.
So followed by a day or two of just being limpy. Yesterday, I did the Leading Boot Challenge, a marathon, but a lumpy one. Plus, the heat meant 7.5 hours on my feet.
Oh my goodness. That's so much marathoning.
Today, just a bit limpy and stiff, almost normal. Literally over the moon, no crawling. Why? Each week, adding in 1 rotation imbalance, 1 unilateral stability, and 2 tobility and ankles from Stability Builder on top of 2 SMMs and my strength stuff. And of course, running. Finally, all the strength and mobility is paying off. My balance is still mind, but I'm still working on it. Thank you, Tom. Few pics of the beautiful event. Pics on screen for others, not us. But yeah, that's just.
All right, Tom. I have to do the picks.
But that's
Sorry, JP.
such a great example there of something that kept coming up and bringing you up your weaknesses
totally,
and working on those things just made it so much better. So you can actually enjoy the thing you love, which is what we're all about.
Oh, totally. And it might sound like, if you don't know the programs that well, that might sound like a lot of stuff she's doing each week, but it's actually not.
No.
It's a lot of separate things, but each one's maybe like 20 minutes.
Yeah, less
Which is
than,
like a warm up
yeah.
or a cool down, which you should be doing.
Totally.
Just putting that out there.
Yeah. Warm-ups and cool-downs are
Um,
where you throw in all that
yeah,
stuff.
like 2 SMMs. To me, you do an SMM before you go out for a run. You know, do it as a warm up,
Yeah.
and that fits in
a
perfectly.
half rep SMM
Yeah,
even, you know.
exactly.
Just get your body moving.
And the rotation and balance and the other sessions, the tobility, you know, it's not going to ruin your day.
No. Won't fatigue you moving your toes.
Yeah, exactly.
But it will help.
Yeah, you could do it while you're watching.
You probably think about
TV or something.
4 times a week there, 30 minutes, and that would be everything's covered there. Just cool.
Unreal. Good job, Vicky. Well done.
Yeah, and that's amazing. Well done, Vicky. And
Can't wait
very
to see her
impressed with
next.
the lengths of
Yeah, that's crazy.
distances.
Wonder what she'll do next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ultramarathon.
Maybe. Maybe she already doesn't.
Cool. Is
Cool.
that the podcast?
That is the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Wow, that was incredible. I enjoyed that podcast, and I hope you did too. If you'd like to find out more, head over to tommorrison.uk.